Apparently, Chris, we're live.
Ah.
Oh my God. And we got 0 people watching. So we'll just, I think what you'll do your little Ghostbusters dance while we wait for people to come and join us. Do you have a Ghostbusters dance? You're looking at me very blankly there. Oh, cup of tea. Well,
if you're expecting me to start waving my proton pack around on screen, you've got another thing coming.
Well, anyway, welcome to Dad the Soul Live, Dad the Soul Deep Dive, where, what are we talking about today, Chris? Producer Chris, who's on screen.
Well, excuse me. This evening, we are going to try and open your minds a little bit and try and see if we can't find something for you to watch now you've watched everything else in lockdown. I'm sure you've been caning the old streaming services, and so we are going to try and see if we can find some things that you might not yet have watched that you might like.
Lovely. And Beverly's watching already. Hello, Beverly.
Hi, Beverly.
Nice to see you along the show. Now, I'm actually going to bail out of this one today. I'm going to sit in the background and I'm going to be producing the show because we've got someone else coming on, someone very special, someone who's been on the Dad the Soul radio show before. Should we bring him on?
A friend of the show, sir.
A friend of the show. Here he is. It's comedian Aidan Goatley.
Hello. I like the way you say friend of the show, as though I'm some sort of like guy who's just dating your mother. You know, like Uncle Aidan is just going to come in. He's a friend of the family now.
He's a friend. He's part of it. So for those of you who don't know, Aidan's been performing since 2011, has had a huge success with his debut show, 10 films with his dad, which has been performed in the UK, Dubai, Istanbul, all over Europe, and in Guildford. Well, is that like London, Peckham, New York?
Yeah. Basically, when I don't know, I just put Guildford on because it just sounded like, you know, I get very British and far too polite about saying where I've gigged, and so you sort of go, oh, I've been Istanbul and Dubai and here and here and here, and then I just put Guildford on the end of the bio, and it's quite funny. Everyone just leaves it in.
Yeah, no, I think it's brilliant.
Guildford, really? Oh, I'm sure Guildford, yeah.
Well, thanks everyone for coming up and watching so far, and make sure you leave a comment. Let us know you are here, and I'm going to disappear off now into the background and leave these 2 lovely gentlemen to entertain you. Goodbye from now.
Cheers, Mark. So, before we go any further, just very quickly, just to declare a thing of interest, is that this is actually somewhat of a reunion for myself and Aidan, because we both attended Bournemouth University together on the very distinct script writing for film and television degree, which led us both into incredibly successful careers in the retail sector. Yes. So
what did you? Because we were in the same year, weren't we? Yeah.
Yes, we were in the same.
What
class,
did you? What? Yeah, the same. What did you write your final script on?
I did a film script about I was attempting to do a very realistic werewolf film because I'm a big fan of werewolf films.
Yeah. And what did you get in the end?
I got a 3rd.
Yay! Oh well, it's cool, man. Because I did a historical detective series. It was called Jesus PI. And,
nice.
Yeah, and I failed. So I went back. I have this distinct honor of not only doing the most stupidest degree in the world, but doing a year in the student union and then going back and doing the final year again, just so I could actually get my script writing degree.
Right.
Oh, pathetic. But yes, a great, glorious career in retail followed.
And the stigmata's all cleared up, yeah?
Yeah, it's all good now. It's all good. It turns out I didn't have to go full method for the actual writing experience. And then there was a very dodgy bit where I tried to walk on water. But yeah.
However, never lose a pen when you got stigmata.
Well, yeah, if it's marker pen, it's, you know, snug. Do you know what I mean? But fountain pens, you know, they 10 a penny. I don't know where we're going with this one. It went very
no
well.
idea. Comedy cul-de-sac, I believe.
Yeah.
So let's move briskly on, and let's start getting into the number things. So Mark just briefly mentioned it a second ago, but obviously you had your long-running show, 10 films with my dad. Which I wasn't able to see live and in person, but I did watch it on YouTube, and I do urge you to go and check it out yourselves on Aidan's YouTube channel. It is a brilliant bit of stand-up, a little bit different. It's got a nice narrative to it, and a bit of heart to it as well, and a spectacular C-bomb dropped right towards the end as well.
Yes,
towards a member of the audience.
It was the 150th time I'd done the show, and it was supposed to be the last time I was doing the show. And in Edinburgh, you know, people come and they go and whatever. And if you watch the show, you know, as you have, you know, there's that bit. It's just building up. The whole thing is building up, right to that bit. And just as I was getting to that bit, this guy just got up and walked out. And yeah, as you saw, and he did receive my wrath, and it was being filmed, and everything was going so well. But yeah, you know.
And you've got this new show, which is sort of a follow-on from it. It's the 10 films with my daughter. So where are you with that? Because if I know you did it recently at Worthing, you did the 2 shows back to back, didn't you?
Yeah. Well, the idea is that I'm doing. Well, the idea was to do a 2-hour show, and because I'm doing like loads of 1-hour shows. I did a show called The Vicar's Husband, Joys of Retail. I did a show that as well, and I've done loads of 1-hour shows. But I wanted to do like a 2-hour show to do sort of a theatre tour, and so the idea was, well, to take 10 films with my dad, which works really well, and then because it was the 10th anniversary of it, then to put a new half to it. And so to do 10 films with my daughter, and I had obviously I was going to be going to doing Edinburgh, and then I was going to be going on. I had a sort of a theatre tour booked,
right,
all up and down the country. I was supposed to be doing a week in Scotland in April, and then I was building up to doing 2 nights in the Bloomsbury Theatre in London in January, and they're the only 2 nights that are still booked on the tour.
Right.
But whether that, I don't know, because I don't, you just don't know when we're going to be able to get back and do sort of live shows again. I mean, you know, there's bigger problems in the world to deal with, obviously. But at the moment, what I'm doing is I'm writing up a book of all my shows in prose form, story form. Mm-hmm. And I think, I don't know, at the moment, my current feeling is that, you know, the moment has passed for those. The 10-year anniversary is just gone. Yeah. And it kind of feels a little bit weird to be, you know, doing stuff that's sort of old, and it feels like, you know, this is an opportunity to go and do something new, and to really do something different. And I'm you know, that's my current feeling. Although, you know, after this is all over, I might look at my bank balance and go, hey, why don't we do the one about the films? People come to that.
Yeah. Which brings us very nicely on to why you're here, because I am a real square eyes. I love TV. Cool. And I have to say, I was actually a big film guy. Film has fallen a little bit by the wayside for me in terms of a passion. And I'm not sure why that is. Maybe I'm just getting to that age where I'm starting to feel like I've seen it all. But it's very rare that I get that excited about a film. But you're a big film fan. So you're going to sort of plug in some of the gaps for me in terms of the film recommendations.
Well, I kind of, when they said, when I got the call saying, oh, would you do this and come up with a list of films, I was trying to think of, I thought trying to mix. So I've got a mix of like stone cold classics and obviously some sort of slightly newer ones and some just basic ones. Because there's, you know, it's also as well, it's difficult to make a judgment. So this isn't like a definitive list of what you may have missed in the last few years. How old are your kids, Chris?
So I have a 6, a 3, and a 9-month-old.
That's why you don't go to the cinema anymore. I just, you know, I don't want to be Sherlock Holmes, but that's the answer. I remember when with our daughter, it was ages until we got to, with Rosie, it was ages till we got to the cinema again, or it just doesn't happen. Life, you're too busy dealing with these young things that need attention. And, they kind of get lonely if you leave them on their own, so you can't get to go to the cinema. Yeah, I've tried to pick some films that I think would be interesting, and some sort of, there's a couple of choices there that are a bit left field, but and there's some very conventional ones. So, if we get to this list and people go, "Oh, I've seen that 600 times," then that's my fault.
Okay. Well, as you can probably see on screen, we've been joined by another one of Bournemouth '99 alumni, Ruth Harrison Roberts. Ruth, thank you for joining us. It's lovely to have you with us. And no, I have not mentioned yours yet, but keep them peeled. Let's get underway. Please, Aidan, first of all, give us your first recommendation.
Okay, I can remember a few of them because I wrote them down, but I don't have the list in front of me, so you're going to have to help me out here. But the first one I've chosen is one that I only watched the other day, and I adored it. I wasn't thinking it was going to be good. I thought, I'll give it a go. It was a sort of sequel to a sequel to a sequel to a sequel, kind of a prequel as well, and it's Bumblebee. Which is the last Transformers movie, the one that wasn't directed by Michael Bay. Have you seen it?
I have seen it. In fact, I believe it was shown on terrestrial TV not that long ago. And yeah. I was thinking about actually sitting the kids down in front of it to watch it. But I seem to remember a couple of instances of slightly fruity language, nothing major. I think one or two S-bombs in there, so I thought best to leave it. But yes, I did see it, and unlike most of the other Transformers films, I quite enjoyed it.
Yeah, I thought it was great. I thought it was everything that I wanted in a Transformers movie that Michael Bay did not provide. It was a proper plot. You could see what was going on. There wasn't edits. There wasn't, you know what I mean? It wasn't quick cuts, and it didn't have Shia LaBeouf in it, which was a major bonus. But it had some real heart, and it's set in in '87, and it really was like a great '80s teen movie, but done now. And it just had a lot of heart. I absolutely adored it. I thought it was really good fun. And I think that if you want to have a film where you can just park your brain for a couple of hours, and maybe the kids might enjoy it as well. You know what I mean? It's got the Transformers in it. But I thought it was great, and I quite like John Cena. He seems to be quite. He's quite charismatic. I believe he is a popular wrestler type person.
Apparently so, yes, and he's joining the Fast and Furious cast in the next instalment, which should have been coming out around now, but I believe has now been delayed till next year.
Therefore, proving that there are many things that we should be thankful to the coronavirus for.
Careful, my wife is a big fan.
We live in a democracy. Everyone is entitled to their own point of view. She is, of course, wrong. They're ridiculous. I know they're supposed to be ridiculous, but they're just so awful. I mean, really, it's so bad.
Hang on a minute. Surely, Fast 5 is the exception.
No, I think when you have a series of 9 films, and your justification, which you just said, and other people have said this to me, is, yeah, but the 5th one's okay. Do you mean,
the 5th one. I didn't say the 5th one. Oh no, we're going to have fallout already. I did not say, sir, that the 5th was okay.
What did you say?
It's great. I would say that Fast and Furious 5 is the best action film I've seen since Bad Boys 2.
Then I would suggest that you need to watch better action films.
Right, we're going to move briskly on, but I will just say, just going back to Bumblebee. What I will say is that what I really loved from a visual point of view of that film is the fact that they streamlined the designs so that the robots actually made some kind of sense, but they also tied them into the old Gen 1 cartoon that me and you watched when we were kids. So if you're of a humble age like myself and Aidan, and you used to watch the Saturday morning kids show cartoon, and you've had your childhoods ruined by Bay and his awful movies, then please give Bumblebee a chance, because it is much closer to the franchise. Yes, and very entertaining. Okay, so that is Bumblebee, which, as you can see on your screen, you can stream via Now TV and also Sky Go. So I'm going to kick off with a recommendation. Excuse me, whilst I'm just looking at my notes to remind myself. My first recommendation is It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia. You can find this on Netflix. There's 14 seasons of it, so there is plenty to watch. And actually, the coming season 5, which obviously now we don't know when it's coming, but it is coming. When that season comes along, it will actually make Always Sunny the longest running live action sitcom in American TV history. And yet, hardly anybody seems to have heard of it or watched it. Aidan, have you ever seen the show?
I have watched one episode.
Oh, no, don't tell me you're not a fan.
Well, I mean, I can't judge it, obviously, on one episode. Mind you, it did only take one episode of the Fast and Furious films for me to hate them. However, sorry, I'm being deliberate.
I think we might have found this evening's runner.
No, I've seen one episode. I can see why people like it. And I can't really say much more. I know that it's got a huge cult following, and it's one of those ones that, when people love it, they really, really love it. And it's very much a Marmite show, I think. And I can see why people think. I mean, the first episode's quite. Oh, crikey, they're going to go there, in a lot of different ways. I thought it was funny thing, but I haven't seen enough to judge it really.
I mean, and you've just brought it on something I should say straight off the bat. As much as I recommend this, I will say, if you are easily offended, this is not the show for you. I've made a note of some examples of some of the storylines that you find on the show. So we've got one where Dennis and Dee, who are twin brother and sister, they decide to go on to benefits, and in the process of that, they get addicted to crack cocaine. There's also an episode where Mac gets very upset because they find out that their school gym teacher gets revealed as someone who's rather fond of the young boys, and Mac gets offended that he never came on to him. And then there's an episode where, to cover up tax fraud, a fake funeral is held for a fictional baby. During the course of the episode, of which one of the characters, played by the magnificent Danny DeVito, says, "This is dark even for us." So that's some examples of some of the storylines that you will find on It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia. But I will say, as much as it might seem like a bad taste, shocking kind of TV show, it's a lot cleverer than that. I think it undermines the strength of the writing and the performances on the show. It is, I think, genuinely laugh out loud funny, and there's not a lot that makes me laugh out loud. I will tend to sort of smile along with TV shows and stuff, but this every single episode is guaranteed at least one huge guffaw from me. And as I say, there are 14 seasons of this thing. The central plot of it is essentially just you've got the twin brother and sister Dennis and Dee, and then their friends Mac and Charlie, and also Dennis and Dee's father, Frank, played by Danny DeVito. They own a Irish pub in Philadelphia, and that's it. And then every episode they just run amok doing all sorts of shenanigans. It is fantastic. I urge you to go and see it. It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia on Netflix. Aidan, number 2 for you.
I got there's a phenomenon in films I call the 11 o'clock movie. And that's a movie, you've got work the next day, a film comes on at 11 o'clock, right? And you go, I'll watch it for a few minutes.
Yeah.
And then the first 15 minutes are brilliant. You're like, this is awesome, right? This is great. Why have I not seen this film before?
Big
it gets half an hour in. Okay. Half an hour in, and you're like, this film is great. This is terrific, and that's him. Oh, and it's him from there, and him, and oh wow, you know. And 45 minutes in, which is the cut. 11:45 is the cutoff. You should be going to bed at that point, right? And you think, I'll wait till the next advert break. I'll see if we get a bit further, right? And unfortunately, at that point, during that next half hour, that's when it goes from like really great to I see where they went here. And then you get to think, well, I better watch the end of it just to see if they redeem it by the end, right? And so your traditional 11 o'clock movie is one that you watch off thinking, I didn't think I was going to watch this, but I'll give it a watch and see how. And then by the end of it, you're slightly disappointed. Now, the next film, right, I'm going to choose is one that should have been an 11 o'clock movie, right? But it's actually really good. I watched it by complete accident. It's on Netflix. It's called Night Hunter, right? Horrific title. I mean, awful title. I mean, that title just goes, oh, should we just go straight for DVD, right? But it's Henry Cavill, Ben Kingsley, not having it up too much. Bless you, sir. Nathan Fillion's in it as well for a bit.
Part of the 27% club.
Sorry?
Nathan Fillion is what I like to call a member of the 27% club, which is his appearance in any film immediately makes it 27% better.
Well, there we go. He certainly helps in this film as well. And Alexandra Daddario is in it as well. I don't know if I'm pronouncing her surname correctly. Amazing eyes. And it's basically, it's a thriller. And Henry Cavill plays a cop. It's set in Minnesota. It's snowing. Of course, it's snowing in Minnesota. There's a serial killer. And it's a DVD movie, right? It's one that you would watch straight to DVD. But it's really good. The direction is written and directed by the same guy. The plot is really quite bare bones, simple. There's not a lot of superfluous backstory. There's stuff that is implied. They use filmically, so they use it just with images, so you just have to watch it. There's no great reams of exposition of one of the characters going, oh, but then that would mean this, and oh, but that would mean, you know what I mean? It's just explained. They do it in a look, you know. And I think Henry Cavill is superb. I think he's been much underused and much underrated, and sadly just been given the wrong films. But he's really good in this, although he does have a slight mullet, which may have been the reason why it went straight to DVD. I don't know, but it's a good film. Okay. And there's a couple of twists in it that you won't expect.
Interesting. I've not seen the film. I wasn't familiar with it at all. So I will have to check that out. You've sold me on that one, sir. You just mentioned it being set in Minnesota, which ties into my next recommendation, funnily enough, which is the TV show Fargo. This is another one that can also be found on Netflix. There are 3 seasons of Fargo. There is a 4th season coming. I have no idea if this has been impacted by the lockdown or not. So if you're not familiar with it, Fargo, although it is, it's probably not fair to say it's based on the film, but it is certainly set in the same world. And it's an anthology crime show. So the beauty of it is, I mean, there's not that many seasons, and I would urge you to just watch all of them, but you can actually just jump in at any point. Because each season is a completely new story with a completely new set of characters. Have you seen it, Aidan?
Yeah, I've seen season 1, which I absolutely loved. I thought it was really good. Season 2, because it was so different from season 1, I struggled with a little bit. So it's one of those ones I go, I'll get back to it. And I just haven't got back to it yet because there's so many things to watch. You get stuck. You know what I mean? Yeah, I know, but how many times do you sit there and go, oh, we've got to watch this, you've got to watch that, and you go, okay, and you just add it to the list, and then you think, well, I'm kind of anal. I can't watch. I've got to watch one thing in one go. I can't you know what I mean? And keep going back and forth, and it just drives me nuts. So I've only seen season 1, but it was very, very good.
Funny enough, actually, what you're describing happened with season 2 for you was actually the same experience for me. I absolutely loved the first season, which starred Martin Freeman and Billy Bob Thornton. And I must just say, just a quick diversion, the cast in these things is amazing. Some of the other people that have been in Ted Danson, Kirsten Dunst, Ewan McGregor was in the last one. The next one coming up has got Chris Rock in it. They have a fantastic cast in every single season. But yeah, I loved that first season. So when the second season came on, like you kind of saying, I kind of felt almost a little bit disappointed that those characters that I fell in love with in the first season weren't there anymore. And I actually sort of got about 2 or 3 episodes into it, and it just fell by the wayside. I then wound up watching season 3, fell back in love with it, and went back to season 2 and wound up watching it. And I'm glad I did. Ruth, you're absolutely, if you love the series, the film, you should watch the series.
Yeah, the film's terrific. I mean, exactly the same. I was 3 episodes in to season 2, so exactly the same, and it just sort of fell. But the film itself is another one worth mentioning. You know, the Coen brothers film Fargo is fantastic. Anything that they do is good anyway. But yeah, I really enjoyed it. Yeah, it's good series. I'll go back to it, I promise.
So you are watching the Dad Lassalle Deep Dive this Monday evening. I am producer Chris Tompkins. Normally I'm behind the scenes, but this evening I am in front of the camera, and I'm joined by stand-up comedian Aidan Goatley, and we are recommending all the things that you should try and watch now you've watched everything else whilst in lockdown, if you can find the time, of course, that is. And we are funded by Worthing Community Chest. So let's jump back into the film recommendations. What's next?
Right. Well, I've gone recently. I've actually no. I'll go into. I'll tell you one thing. Jack Reacher.
Mm-hmm.
I read a couple of the books. And there's a series of books, the Jack Reacher novels, which if you haven't read are awful. They are basically wish fulfillment, boys' adventures, holiday novels. You know, they're once in flying airports, and they're hugely successful. I mean, the guy Lee Martin sold. Lee Child is the author. And you know, he's written this character, Jack Reacher. He's 6'6". He's 6 foot wide. There's he's men want to be him, women want to sleep with him. He's an ex-military policeman. He wanders the whole of America, basically going from adventure to adventure, putting right wrongs, right? And it's total bollocks, right? But great, it's brilliantly written. People love it, you know, and. Basically, it's total wish fulfillment because Lee Child, the author himself, is 6'5". Mm-hmm. So you know what I mean. You go, oh, I wonder why you chose your lead character to be that height. You know? Anyway, so they come to make a film of it, and so you've got the character who's 6'5" and built like a brick shit house and just indestructible, which means, of course, you're going to film it with Tom Cruise in it, because you know. That's just the way you're going to work. And the thing was, it's directed by Chris McQuarrie, who co-wrote The Usual Suspects, who also has directed just recently the new Mission Impossible films. And it is, if you're a fan of the book, you're never going to love it because you're never going to get over the fact that Tom Cruise is 4 foot nothing, right? But if you're a fan of films, and it's a really pared down 70s thriller. There's little or no music to it. There's no big quick edits. There's solid sounding, and more importantly than anything else, right? It is the most violent 12 rated film I have ever seen. You go and see it was actually a 12A, so under 12s could go and see it. And we went to see it, and I thought, oh, I hope there's some bone crunching in this. There is bone crunching. There is fingers being cut off. There is really gruesome violence in this. Babies get shot in this film. You watch this film and you think, how the hell is this only a 12A? It's really. Have you seen it?
I have seen it, and yeah, I agree with everything you're saying. And I guess one of the good things is about the film when I went to watch it was that my expectations were really, really low. I wasn't excited about seeing the film particularly. I felt like I'd seen probably the most exciting bits in the trailer, yeah, so I really wasn't expecting very much, and I was so shocked at how much I enjoyed it. In fact, I remember very specifically watching it because we'd not long moved into a new flat. This is before I had any children, so this is why I was watching a film in the middle of the day, and I was actually alphabetizing my DVD collection, ready to go onto the new shelves. Yeah, I actually stopped what I was doing because I was so caught up in the film. It is a really good recommendation.
And we've the whole having kids thing doesn't stop you from watching it when they're afternoon nap time. I just put Sink the Bismarck on. That's what afternoon nap times are for, so we can watch a film. That's let's not lie. But yeah, it's a cool cover film. It really is.
Brilliant. Okay, so I've got another Netflix recommendation. There is some stuff that's on some of the other streaming services, but I am going to dip back into the Netflix collection, and something a little bit different here. This is a documentary series, and it's called The Toys That Made Us. Have you seen it?
Yes. And they did a follow-up called The Films That Made Us, which is really good as well.
Okay, interesting. I will come back to that. But just to explain for those that haven't seen it, I'm going to read the synopsis because it sums it up nicely. It's the minds behind history's most iconic toy franchises discuss the rise and sometimes fall of their billion-dollar creations, and it basically tells you the story behind Barbie, Transformers, He-Man, you name a toy that you played with in the 80s, it is on this show. And I know it sounds like it is probably dull as ditch water. It is not. It is probably one of the most entertaining watches I've had in a long time. I had a stupid grin on my face the entire time because of the pure nostalgia about it all. But not just that, the actual stories that they tell are fascinating because these stories you just don't hear, which is what brings me on to what my issue was with the movies that made us. That whilst I enjoyed it, I certainly didn't hate it. I feel like anybody with a fairly decent passion for films will probably know most of the stuff that they told in that series. Yeah. Whereas the Toys That Made Us, you never hear from the guy that drew the pictures that He-Man was then made from, and it is absolutely fascinating.
There's a great sort of in that same theme, but there's a great book by Nick DeSemlin called Wild and Crazy Guys. I don't know if you've come across that.
Yeah, I haven't read it. It is actually on my Amazon wish list, but I have so many unread books. I am not allowed to buy any more. Somebody told me.
Well, there's one or two really bits of thing you go, oh, I didn't know that, but it's like that. There's a lot of stuff that you know, I'm sure you know, but if you don't know about that, anyway, the Toys That Made Us is the thing we're talking about. I remember watching the He-Man one, and there was a whole great big thing about going on about there's another documentary about He-Man on Netflix as well, which is about the whole sort of making of the TV show and the cartoon and everything, which is
I think I watched
really. Yeah, it's a great watch, isn't it? And just the way that there's all certain things you didn't know about the show, and that bit I found really interesting.
Yeah, and I should also mention that yes, within the Toys That Made Us, they do cover every element of the franchise. So not only do they cover the toys, but they talk about the ones that they had. There were comics. They've got the ones that had the TV shows and the movies made it. They cover all of it, and it's all done in a really zippy 45 minutes. I think it is 50 minute long episode. It is such an easy watch, and obviously it's not a series, so it's not like I've got to. If I don't keep watching, I'm going to forget what happens. You can dip in and dip out because each episode is about one subject. Highly recommended too. And no, sorry, Ruth, you're going to continue to be disappointed. There will be no mention of John Wick's Chapter 3, but that is not because we don't think it's a a good film. It is.
No, we don't think it's a good film. I just want to point out we don't.
Do you not?
No.
Are you not a fan of the franchise or just that particular episode?
I thought the first one was okay. I thought it set up an interesting world. I thought the second one was at least 45 minutes too long. And the third one is just a repeat of the second one and ends exactly at the same point where it starts. So there's actually no point to it whatsoever.
That is very...
The character's in exactly the same position as he was at the end, as he was at the beginning. It's a series of very good fights, which just become really repetitive and boring because I care. Okay, if I care about Keanu Reeves, I care about him in the first one because he's got an actual story arc. His puppy's died and so forth or whatever, right? And he's lost his wife. That's obviously more important, but the puppy's died. In the second one, it's just a load of faceless people that he's having fights with that we know nothing about. And if you don't know anything about them, it's just another body he's killing. Who cares? There's some spectacular action sequences, don't get me wrong, but I just found it so repetitive and dull because why should I care? He's clearly indestructible. There's a lovely theory that I heard recently after I'd seen the films, which makes sense, that John Wick is actually a video game character.
Right.
And the whole thing, if you think about it, it makes sense because... the base, and that's where he gets his operation. You know what I mean? It sort of that would be the safe zone, the continental hotels. That's where you do that. I just thought it was very stylish, very thing, but really just dull.
Well, just to clarify, Ruth, my feelings on it very quickly are I wasn't that impressed with the first one. I absolutely loved the second one and the world building, and I also enjoyed the third one, but I definitely was feeling a lot of fight fatigue by the end. So, where are we? This is your turn, I believe, sir.
I believe so. Well, I've actually picked a couple of films which are basically could be lumped in together in order to save some time. They're both basically martial arts films, but starring the same guy, and I can't pronounce his name. Iwo, his name.
Uwe?
Again, do you know what? I get a feeling we're too white and middle-aged to be able to get away with saying it without sounding massively racist. So what we'll do is we'll just
sure?
go...
Because I was going to try and do the accent.
No.
Shall I just try?
No, not even a little. Okay. Not even a little.
Okay.
We go, it's the guy from The Raid.
Yeah, there we go.
Him. But there's 3 or 4 films on Netflix. But The Raid is on there as well, and The Raid is, if you haven't seen it, it's a film. It was shot in Malaysia, and it's directed by Gareth Evans, I think, or Gareth Edwards. Thank you.
No, sorry. No. I think you're right. Actually, I think it's Evans.
It's Evans. Yeah, Edwards was the guy who did Godzilla, wasn't it?
Yes.
Yeah, Gareth. So it's directed by a Welsh guy. It's basically The Raid is fantastic. It's directed by a Welsh guy. It's directed by a Welsh guy and stars that other guy. And it's basically police going into a building, and that's the plot. That's the entire plot. They're going into a building that's run by drug dealers. But the action is off the scale. It's, when you watch something and you go, oh, that must have hurt. There's about 600 moments of this in these films. Just constantly just sitting there going, this really hurts. And the choreography is just amazing, and just the fight sequences, and you it gets to a point because you do care. There is more character to it as well, so there is plot, there is reasons behind it. There are a few moments I'll give you where there's a couple of guys standing in the background waiting for their turn to have the fight, where you do sort of think, well, if all 6 of them jumped in, they'd kill him, but it's a film. And there's another, but if you love that one, there's another film called The Night Comes for Us, which is that on a really epically more violent scale. And there's bits of it. I watched it and went, wow, that's great. I said to my wife, we should watch this. You'll love it. We watched the first half hour, and my wife loves those kind of films. But my wife turned to me and went, I think maybe we should watch this in stages. I don't think I could cope with it in one go. There's also another one called Triple Threat and another one called Headshot. They all star the same people. You'll see the same crew because they're basically, it's obviously a small industry or comparatively small, but these guys are just they're amazing at what they do, and the stunt work is all in camera. There's no special effects, there's no CGI. Films where I remember when Gladiator came out, everyone was saying, "Oh, Gladiator's great," but that was one of the first films where there was all this quick cutting and stuff. But this is more like old-fashioned filmmaking. They've got a camera, put it there, you guys fight, and just make it amazing. And it just is. It's just incredible.
I think it always kind of astounds me that in Western cinema, the way that we tend to shoot action, you get people like Keanu Reeves, oh God, what's his name? Matt Damon for the Bourne franchise, and that all these actors and they train for months and months and months to get good at these martial arts to make the fight scenes convincing, and then the camera is shoved about 6 inches from their torso.
Yeah.
And cut. And I just think, well, this is such a shame because I'm sure this is a brilliant fight scene, but I've got no idea where they are into comparison to one another, and it always seems so ridiculous. And The Raid is a classic example, as is all of those films that you just listed, where the Eastern cinema, they know how to shoot the shit out of a fight scene, and a funny thing is, it doesn't involve anything complicated. It's make the shot as wide as possible so we can see everybody, and then let them go at it. The thing that I remember the most about the thing that just seems to stick in my mind, and sticks probably a bad choice of words, is
I think I know what you're going to say.
The Night Comes for Us. There's a lot of knives in it, and I'm quite squeamish about knives in things. It's ever since Psycho, I think, the thought of a knife slicing skin. And there are a lot of knife fight scenes in that film.
The scene in the butchers.
Yes.
Do you remember that the hooks in that one? That's yeah. Ow. But it's if you want something that's completely like, I need, if you're feeling a little bit angry, or you just want to go, you know what I mean? You just want to get out your system. These are the films to watch. Absolutely.
Fantastic. So I am I'm going to speak about something that I can't recall, Aidan, from our time at university, whether you're a sports fan of any kind. I know that you're a fan of sports movies, but are you a sporting fan?
Not really. Depends, really. It really depends. What are you going to go with?
So I'm going to recommend a show called Sunderland Till I Die.
Right.
Keep it clean, Ruth. The Sunderland Till I Die, there's 2 seasons of it. The second season's only just recently come out. It's on Netflix again, and it's very simple. It's a documentary series following the fortunes, or more specifically the misfortunes, of Sunderland Football Club. The first season covers the 2017 to 2018 season, which is when Sunderland had just been relegated from the Premier League and were spending their first season in the Championship. Although I do follow football, I'm not like a really, really avid football fan, and I do support Newcastle. So there was a slight morbid curiosity to me for watching Sunderland. And that's kind of what was so shocking about it is I should have been sat there laughing and pointing at them throughout the entire thing. Yeah. And I actually got really, really caught up in it. And it was... it really kind of highlighted the passion and the love that the fans have for their football teams, especially up there in the northeast, where it is literally a way of life. I have been up there on match day, and every other person in Newcastle city centre, and I'm sure it's the case in Sunderland.
Yeah, no.
Every other person's in black and white on match day.
Absolutely,
it is all pervasive there. The series is absolutely fantastic, and as I say, you may not be a particular football fan, Aidan, but as a fan of sports movies, I would highly, highly recommend it.
I will actually give that a try, because I've looked at that because I watched another Netflix series called Formula One, the Formula One Drive to Survive. I don't know if you've seen that.
No, and I hate Formula One, so I wonder if this will be the same kind of thing.
This is the thing, because I used to love Formula One as a child. When I was a kid growing up, my dad would watch it. It would be a constant thing, and I loved it. And then it just became boring because it's just Lewis Hamilton driving around really, really fast. But what this show does is it looks at the teams that are and the same thing as Sunderland. It goes sort of 2017, 2018, that season, you know, and then it goes to the 2019 season. So again, there's 2 seasons of it. But it focuses more on the mid-range teams. So each episode is about, you know, these different teams and trying to get through. And so it's not linear, you know, but it's the filming, it's brilliant. And probably like the Sunderland show, you kind of find yourself just, you know, whereas before you didn't really care about, you know, some crappy little team, and all of a sudden you find yourself going, oh, I really want to know what happens, you know. And but it was great stuff, so I will actually check out that Sunderland one.
Yeah, and that's the beauty of it. Is I didn't. I had forgotten largely what had happened to Sunderland, so I was watching it really just as a casual viewer, and you get so caught up in the highs and lows of it, and there's quite a lot of lows in there.
Oh,
so that is Sunderland Till I Die.
Cool.
2 seasons of that, and I think each season is only about 6 episodes long, so it's a nice, easy, quick watch. Some of the episodes only go on for slightly just over half an hour, so recommend that one. We are 3/4 of an hour in to the Dad Soul Deep Dive with Aidan Goatley, funded by Worthing Community Chest. That's the show, not Aidan. And we are talking about what on earth you can watch now you've watched everything else in lockdown. So, Aidan, it is your turn. What celluloid treat have you got for us now?
I can't remember.
Whoa. Well, I'll tell you what, shall we get Mark in the background to just punch one up, and we'll take it from there.
I've got my readers.
Put big light on.
George. Here we go. Yeah.
Oh, what's this about?
Well, funnily enough, Ruth gets her wish. You can't, if you're going to come up with a list of films, and if you're going to come with, like, whether they recommend or not, you can't not put this film on this list. It is simply probably one of the top 5 films ever made. It is just so brilliantly done. The fact that it's a film about a shark, and you don't see the shark for the first hour and a bit because, well, basically the shark looks shit. But by the time the shark turns up, you don't care. The film is so brilliantly carved. The characters are excellent. The script is just absolutely razor sharp. There isn't a bum note in it. The little asides, the little sort of cutaways that happen. The one thing, there's that little drop of water just ripples out. There's a drop goes into the water. Anyway, it's a beautiful film. Everyone's seen it. But the great thing is that I think this, I mean, my dad took me to see this. This was the first film my dad took me to see when I was 5. And it terrified me. Absolutely, totally terrified me. Scared the absolute living crap out of me. Dad didn't see the problem, didn't see what the problem was. Surely it should be absolutely fine. It's only a film. You know, and he's like, I just what the problem is. The boy seems to be weak. But you know, there's a scene where a 5-year-old child is eaten by a shark. You know, that was the kind of the first giveaway. And if you watch my show, 10 Films with My Dad, you will see me talk about Jaws extensively. But I think it's one of the best films ever made.
Yeah, and it is actually, I can say without hesitation, it is my favourite film of all time. And there's not many things that I can say that is my favourite thing, but I adore that film, and I can't get enough of it. I went, I can't remember if it was last year or the year before, went to the Brighton Dome and watched the film performed with a live orchestra, and it was absolutely phenomenal.
Yeah. There's a great, there was a play that was touring again. Hopefully it'll be back.
Yes, I wanted to go see it.
Yeah, Robert Shaw's son.
Yes.
And basically the three actors in that scene, that famous scene, and set all around it, which apparently is just a fantastic play to go and see. I don't know what else to say about Jaws because everything's already been said. Do you know what I mean? I don't know what else to say because it's just such a good film.
No, I don't think there is anything to say. It is perfection as far as I'm concerned. So what shall I recommend next? I'm going to go with something quite obscure. I'm aware that a lot of my stuff is not all that obscure. I think most people will have probably heard of some of the stuff. But I'm going to go with something that I really, really stumbled on quite recently, and I loved it. It's a series called Documentary Now. Now, this one is not on Netflix. Documentary Now can be found on Amazon Prime. Documentary Now, 3 seasons of it. It's a spoof documentary series. It features Bill Hader and Fred Armisen. I don't know if you're familiar with those guys.
Yes. Yeah.
Fabulous, fantastic comedic actors, both alumni from Saturday Night Live. If you don't recognise the name, you 100% will recognise them as soon as you see them. They've been in so many things, whether they've been a small part in the background or one of the main cast. Probably the best known of the two is Bill Hader, as he's been recently in the American show Barry, about a hitman trying to become an actor. Which almost made it onto my list, but to be honest, it's not that easy to find on a streaming service. So this is the one I went for. So yeah, each episode is as a spoof on a documentary. Some of them are based on documentaries that you would already know. Some of them are based on quite obscure documentaries, but the attention to detail, the love and the effort that has gone into recreating them are phenomenal. Every single episode is different, looks different, feels different, and the only common link between it is Bill Hader and Fred Armisen playing these characters. It is so funny, and if you don't get on with it, then I at least recommend you just watch one episode. In season 1, it's episode 4. It's called The Eyes Don't Lie. It is a true crime documentary spoof. All about this man who is wrongly convicted for murder, largely because he's just a very dull, irritating man. So that is Documentary Now.
Yeah.
Go on, sorry.
No, there was just, I love the way that you paused and just looked at me after you said, boring and irritating man.
Not at all.
Which is cool.
Right, we are getting close to the hour mark, so let's see if we can squeeze in as many as we can before we go. What next?
Again, I can't remember. I've clumped some together. We'll throw one up, Mark, if you could, whatever the next one is that I actually came up with. I think I did suggest Raiders of the Lost Ark because I thought, that's a good one. If you haven't got the kid, with the kids, if they haven't seen the Raiders films, these are the films to watch. Galaxy Quest, here we go. Galaxy Quest, simply the best film. I know we've got a lot of this is the best film ever, but this is the best Star Trek film never made.
Mm-hmm.
It is a film made by absolute fans. It's a satire spoof, but it's not a spoof because spoof implies it's taking
homage.
It's an absolute love letter to Star Trek and to shows of that ilk and to the people who love them. Yeah. And it's clearly made by people who love them and who love Star Trek and love all these things. It's the plot basically, very simply, is Tim. His name. Guy from Toy Story. Tim Allen, thank you. Tim Allen plays the Captain Kirk character of a show called Galaxy Quest that only lasted sort of 79 episodes and was cancelled and was massively cult. He and the rest of his crew, the actors, now tour around doing Comic-Cons. This includes Sigourney Weaver, whose role was to be the lieutenant who just repeated what the computer said. There's Sam Rockwell plays a guy who was only ever in one episode and got killed. Tony Shalhoub is the chief engineer, and Alan Rickman is just glorious as the alien science officer. Basically, obviously a riff of Spock. And the plot is that their TV show over the years has been transmitted obviously out into space, been picked up by an alien race who have decided that these are the guys who are going to save them from the real alien bad guys that are out there. And the plot goes on from there. And it is a joy. It is an utter delight. If you do not love this film, frankly, you should basically book a trip to Switzerland. You have no soul. It is lovely, and it is done with love and with heart and with genuine joy. It's such a lovely film.
Yeah, it's great. It's a really easy watch. It's just stick it on and just have a great time. The Sam Rockwell character in that film is brilliant, and I also love and it just has me creasing up with laughter every single time without fail, is that the sequence where they first drive the spaceship out of the spaceport and he veers ever so slightly to the left, and then there needs to be a very dragged out scraping along the side. It's brilliantly played. And I believe I don't know if I was quick and nimble enough, I would have checked. I believe there is actually a film feature-length documentary coming out about it. I don't know if it's out yet or not, but whether it's available.
I think it was coming out on YouTube. It was a crowd-funded documentary about the making of it, made by the guys who do Cinema Sins.
Yes.
Which is a YouTube channel, which is a very funny YouTube channel. Honest Trailers. No, it's Honest Trailers. The Honest Trailers guys.
Oh, it's those guys, yeah.
Those guys, yeah. If you haven't watched Honest Trailers, type in Honest Trailers into YouTube, and they do very, very, very funny takedowns on films, but also ones that they love. But they've done a documentary about Galaxy Quest, and I think it's called No Retreat, No Give Up,
Never Surrender. Never Surrender.
Never, yeah, that's it. Sorry, I got a fly has interrupted me. Animals, wildlife. Galaxy Quest, great film.
Brilliant. So I'm going to just quickly rattle through a couple of recommendations before we run out of time. I must recommend this next show because I really do think this is an underseen gem. Eastbound and Down, sir. Have you seen that?
No, I have not. Danny
McBride.
I've been watching The Righteous Gemstones.
Yeah, I've not enjoyed Righteous Gemstones that much, but it is the same sort of cast and crew as Eastbound and Down, which is the first program he did. So Eastbound and Down, there's 4 seasons of it. It's on Now TV, and it's Danny McBride plays a Major League Baseball player with an ego the size of a large planet. And he has burnt out, and he winds up going back to his old hometown where he coaches the physical education program at the local high school. Again, it's one of those shows, a bit like It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia, where the kind of central pitch for it sounds awful and doesn't do it justice. What I love about this show is I think this show is the closest thing you'll get to a US version of Alan Partridge. The character of Kenny Powers, as he's called, is a really, really rich character. As I say, he's brash, he's insensitive, he's egotistical, and all of this bluster covers a vast array of insecurities. It's also a show that really, really goes places with it. Every single season, the story moves the character and the locale and the situation on, so it never stays stagnant. There's no spoilers. By the end of the first season, into the second season, he doesn't even remain at the high school gym. It moves on from that. I really, really recommend you go check it out. And it's HBO as well, so it means there's lots of effing and jeffing, which we all know is funny and cool. Is there anything else that do you want to?
No, I think we've got about 20 seconds left. So, sorry?
No, I think that would do it. There's plenty of there for you to look. If you've oh, hang on, we've had a question through. Ruth wants to know what our thoughts are about Cinema Paradiso. Don't worry if we overrun, Aidan. Do you want to? I've not seen it, so I couldn't say.
I've seen it. I remember watching it. It's a lovely film. I remember crying a lot. Don't watch the extended cut if you see it. It's basically, that's a film about the love of cinema and a young boy who grows up watching cinema and learning about cinema through an old cinema in a village. It's quaint. It's lovely. Isn't it? So yeah, projectionist. It's quaint. It's lovely. Don't watch the extended edition because that's about the kid when he grows up and becomes a director, and then that becomes a bit self-indulgent. But the earlier bit is lovely, so that's quite nice. Although if you're after a foreign language film, my favourite foreign language film is a film called La Haine, which is from 1995, set in Paris in one day after a riot. 3 young people basically going through Paris after a riot, which is an amazing film.
Yeah, it's a great film.
Yeah.
And it's got Vincent Cassel, is that his name?
Vincent Cassel and I can't remember his name, Saeed, who actually was in John Wick, Calaveras 3, in the scene of the ubiquitous let's put this in here because he'll come back in the 4th film. He's the guy in the he's a French Arabic guy. Consequently, he was also playing a French Arabic guy in Wonder Woman. And anything that's needing anything Arabic or French, he's the man who's in that film. He's that guy that you see and go, oh, it's him. Yeah, him.
Brilliant. Well, listen, this has been so much fun. Hello, Mark. You're still awake. Thank you.
Yeah. No, it's been good. I've actually had a bit of an education on this one. So we're going to, take that list. Actually, Ian is going to make it into a blog post so we can share that about as well and have a nice list of things to watch while we are locked in our houses.
Yes, plenty there to get going.
I should mention as well that if anyone who actually has watched this just types my name into YouTube, there are 4 of my shows on YouTube, hour-long shows: 10 Films of My Dad, The Joys of Retail, Travels of a Happy Man, and The Vicar's Husband, which is actually my favourite one. And you can see them all for free on YouTube. If you enjoy them, make a donation to a food bank.
Wonderful. Yeah, that's a nice bit of extra entertainment there. And actually, when we get back out and about again, we're allowed out, do try and go and see one of Aidan's shows because they are hilariously funny. Nice one, guys. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Are you all done, Chris?
Aidan. Yeah, thanks a lot.
Thank you. Nice to see you again, Chris.
Yes, you too, sir. Thank you, everybody, for watching, your comments, and we'll see you in a couple of weeks, I believe. We've got another deep dive. We have got another deep dive in a couple of weeks. So we've got some things lining up now. So every couple of weeks, we're going to have a deep dive. We've got some good guests lined up. So watch out on www.dadlersoul.com. Also on the Dadler Soul Facebook page where you can see us popping up. See you later, guys. Thanks, everyone, for watching. Laters. Bye. Bye.